So I think if I want to explain it in one word, would be unique. Um, Meeting Yo-Yo Ma, which happened before the project started, and for another purpose actually. So that was very important. And then I was asked to be part of this project, write some music for it, and I had my doubts, and I didn't really know what it's gonna be like and everything. And I think everybody started like that, and we're still searching for new ways, new ideas, and what we can do. But our minds are more in a direction of um, unity and something we could do together. And when you have a number of um, brilliant musicians, the possibilities are endless, and what happens can be very, very extraordinary. Ever since I've been involved in the project, um, I learned a lot, first of all, and this might sound like a cliche. I learned a lot, but I really learned. I'm not just saying that because I tell you why. Because I'm a solo musician, and I was brought up in a solo tradition. We are um, trained as solo musicians, and that's something that becomes part of our character as a musician. We're not taught to share and share anything, stage, music, whatever. We're soloists, so and improvisers. So it is kind of difficult to become involved in such project when you have to share with 40 people or 30 people or other musicians and read music and do all these things that for a musician such as myself could be very demanding sometimes. But the outcome was very interesting for me, and it is nice to learn to share. And yes, I play kamancha. Kamancha literally in Persian means the little hunting bow. Kaman means hunting bow, and che is the diminutive for the word. So kamancha is the name of an instrument. I think as for any other bowed string instruments, kamancha was a plucked string instrument once, and was played, maybe on the lap or held like this. And then after discovering this, the bow becomes a bowed instrument. There are different kinds of kamancha around Central Asia, and mostly, and with different shapes and length of the neck and different number of strings. The Persian kamancha usually has a hollowed belly, which can be turned out of a solid piece of wood, or put together ribs of different kinds of wood, usually walnut or mulberry. And then it has a long neck, usually 30 to 32 centimeters. 4 strings. This is the modern kamancha actually. It used to have 2 and then 3, but in the beginning of the century, 20th century, they added the 4th string, which was an imitation of violin. So the strings are made of steel, but again, not long time ago they used silk for the strings, and after being introduced to Western violin, they used steel strings, and the mouth of the belly is covered with a piece of skin, which the bridge falls on it, and because of the shape and the piece of the skin, it has a different sound quality. It's a little reedier. I started when I was 5 with violin, and then there was this old master who I still admire very much, Ustad Bahari, and I saw him on TV, you know, every now and then, and his style, the sound of the instrument, really caught my attention, and I became really fascinated with the sound. And I didn't have a Kamancha teacher, you know, back then. I just bought a Kamancha and started on my own. And later on, I found teachers because where I lived, there weren't any Kamancha teachers. And this is very interesting actually, because when Western violin was introduced at the end of 19th century to Persian music, a lot of people played that and just put Kamancha aside. And it was fashionable, it was Western, it was chic, you know, so they just didn't like to play Kamancha anymore. So he was one of the masters who held on and then played Kamancha all his life, never switched to violin. And in that time he was the only master who was playing that instrument, and his existence was very crucial to the history of Kamancha. And you know, I'm very fascinated always with his playing and his role in our musical culture. But nowadays there are many young players because he continued on playing. Kamancha is very important in Luristan folk music, which is in a state in central Iran, and a lot of that music, the repertoire of Luristan music or Luri music, as we call it, I studied those as well. So a combination of folk and traditional music that are played on Kamancha in modern Iran, and with different styles. And it's amazing when you're looking for something that doesn't exist and how much you can find. And first of all, Kamancha can be tuned in fourths or fifths. We change the tuning according to the scale or the daska we play. Usually this is the most common tuning, D A, or or step lower. G, what was it? C G C G, or it could be E A D G, like violin, or any combination of different tunings in fourth and fifth, or third or fourth. The lower string is, now that it's tuned on A, could be tuned on G or F. And you could play up to the fifth position comfortably, and any kind of speed. The difficulty on Kamancha is that I usually actually don't play Kamancha like this. I play it sitting on the ground, but it's still difficult to hold the Kamancha upright, and the bowing Kamancha is kind of tricky, because it's not unlike violin, that the hand moves, and the elbow and bow are involved, and the wrist are involved in the process of bowing. In Kamancha, you just bow and the instrument turns. So it makes it different from violin, but in the same time it gives you possibility of doing things like a lot of turns involving all the instruments, and double stops or triple stops. And the ornamentations traditionally are endless, but these are the most common ones. Or double fast notes, like something like these. And the right hand is very comfortable and can do very fast notes, very fast 16ths, or 30 seconds or whatever. But the nicest things on melodies on Kamancha are very cantabile, very slow melodies that have some kind of warmth into them. So it's possible to write something, very slow and elegant, as well as, fast passages and things like that.